Alright, so what I've done is I've finished the writing out the flowchart inside the Mindomo map, and now we are going to go to the most important step in creating these Dialogflow flowcharts. Okay, and the step I'm talking about is the addition of context information into the map. Alright, so the way I do that is, you can see that when you go from this particular node to the child node, this is think of it as representing an intent, because if you think about it, in an intent you usually have the user saying something and the bot comes back with a response, right? And what connects the intent and makes it go to the next intent, if you've been following my material, you know that you have to add input and output contexts to be able to do that. So the way I represent it over here is, I'm going to add a new node, okay, and then I'm going to give it a good name. So let's say that we have this here, identify, await underscore identify. That is, I'm trying to say that we are waiting for the user to say yes or no to the question of identifying the vertebrate, okay, and this is a context, okay. And the way we identify or represent a context inside the Mindomo is we use the ellipse as the node shape. All right. So of course, because it's a mind mapping tool, what you can also do then is you go here. Remember, the goal is that this has to be under this particular node, right? We want it to flow as a flowchart. So you can just do a Control X, which is cut, and then a Control V, which is a paste, and you can see that it's now come down below this particular node. That is, it's now a child of this node, right? And you can do the whole thing, you can do that for the whole sub tree. That is, this entire thing can be cut and pasted in the same way. So Command X and Command V, of course, Control X for Windows and Command for Mac. I think you already know that. Notice that now what's happened is we have managed to use the Mindomo to move this branch and this branch under this particular context. And what it actually represents is that when the user first says hi and the bot responds with, would you like to identify the vertebrate, this actually is an indication that we are going to set await underscore identify as the output context of the parent and the input context of the child. All right. So that means await underscore identify is actually going to be an output context for one intent, which is this one, and it's going to be input context for two different intents. But being able to do that and doing this correctly is pretty much all you need to make the conversation flow as you expect. Now you have to replicate this for all the intents, that is the input and output context system, but doing this is actually sufficient. And also I'll add one more thing, even though I don't actually explicitly specify the lifespan in this particular chart, you would want to add the lifespan of 1 for most of your intents in Dialogflow, the context lifespan. And I also have a long article describing why I recommend that. I leave a link below this video. And this, you have to suppose that if it's not mentioned, if the lifespan is not explicitly mentioned in the inside this node, you just assume that it's a value of 1. Okay, so we have done that, and we are going to do the same input and output scheme for all the intents that we have over here. So here, when it's asking does it have fur, let's just say await has fur, okay, and make sure that you change the node type. I think you have to unfocus and refocus to do that. Make it like that, and then Control X, Control V, Control X, Control V. All right, so you have made these two intents as the children of this node, which means inside your bot, what you're going to be doing is you're going to have await has fur appear as an output context on this intent and input context as these two for these two intents. Okay, now let's do the same thing for this one. Await has feathers and make sure that you represent it as a context. Right, so then we have the same thing here, await as internal fertilization. You may want to avoid context names which are too long and use suitable names. For now, I'm just doing this, to explain things. So yeah, so this is what we have. Okay, actually, there's just one more. Await as skills, and let's go there. Make it. Right. There you go. That finishes the flowchart representation, and it includes the context information. So let's just quickly go over what we have in this flowchart. When the user starts the conversation, it is going to set await underscore identify as the output context for the welcome intent, and it's going to set the await identify as input context to these two intents where the user says no, and then it's going to start over, or if the user says yes, it's going to ask another question, and then it's going to set await has for as the output context in that particular intent. All right, so this is a good next step to what we had before. Remember that we started by simply typing out the conversation, right? And now what we have done is we have added input and output context information into the map. And we will see in the next video how we can take this and keep improving it so that we will be able to quickly translate this into a actual Dialogflow chatbot.